In this video, I will show you step by step how to spot the best investment opportunities in the stock market. Stay until the end of the video because we will go through some really practical examples. To help you fully understand the strategy, I first need to talk you about what recently happened to Google stock. Why are we starting with Google stock? Very simple, because in the last weeks and really in the last few months, Google has performed incredibly well. Look at the chart. In just 6 months, the stock is up 86%. And from the lows here in April 2025, the move has been almost parabolic. Look, it's amazing. So, what can we learn from what happened to Google? And more importantly, how can we use these lessons to make better investment decisions? This is exactly what we are going to explore in today's webinar, okay? And if we go back a few months and look at the articles published about Google at that time, here you can find some example. We find many headlines suggesting that Google could be destroyed by ChatGPT. Look, for example, this one. Will Google search be disrupted by ChatGPT? Or even more, look at this one. Google, as you know, it is slowly dying. This article is dated 29 May 2025. And if we go here, May 29 May is here, just before the rising of the stock. Amazing, isn't it? And we all know ChatGPT, of course. It arrived exactly 3 years ago. I know exactly the date ChatGPT was presented to the public because it's the same day my son Elon was born. And of course, ChatGPT had an incredible success. No technology like this had ever grown so fast. Many people starting saying, I'm using ChatGPT instead of Google. This will kill Google. And honestly, that narrative sounded very reasonable at the time. Today, we all use ChatGPT for research, explanation, and tasks that before its arrival, we used to do only with Google, isn't it? And if you look at online articles from 1 year or year and a half ago, they were all saying the same thing. Google might be overtaken by large language models. That's it. Do you remember this narrative? Of course, of course. This is what was happening. And what's happened after that? the the Google shares skyrocketed, okay? And this is something very important, and we have to understand why, and we have to understand what happened, because there were a period that we can find here on the chart where it looked like really Google was dying because the stock wasn't performing very well. The pessimism was really high on the stock, and then everything changed. Okay, so we have to understand what happened. We can go to the fundamental page where we can reach the raw data, and look, I have something new for you inside the Forecaster terminal. If you go here, we are on the income statement page, and here you can find the revenue. If you click the revenue, here we have a new feature for the Forecaster terminal where you can find the revenue chart. And this is something amazing because you can not only have the revenues, but you can also see the growth the revenue growth, 5-year growth, and also the 10-year growth. We can make a zoom so we can have a look. And what is very interesting about this new feature is that you can also add the stock price. And this is something amazing. Okay. So during all this period where the narrative was really clear, what the number was telling us was a complete different story. Okay. Because if we go here and we just look at the numbers, as you can see, the revenues were increasing. And not only the revenues, because look, if we add the 5-year revenue growth and the 10-year revenue growth, let me do a zoom. We can zoom out 5 years. Not only revenue were growing, but they were also speeding up. Because look, the growth rate went from 89% in the last 5 years to 91. And the 10-year revenue growth rate went from 365 to 366. So the narrative was telling that Google was dying, but in terms of numbers, this is something that wasn't happened. Okay. And also, if we go down here in the net income line, we can find exactly the same thing. If we add the 5-year growth rate and the 10-year growth rate, here we can find the same situation. We can also add the stock price, and this was the period where the stock wasn't performing really well because of this bad narrative on the company. But look, the numbers were telling us something different, because the net income growth 5 years went from 114 to 148. And the net income growth the 10 years went from 422 to 512. So while all the articles all across the globe they were telling that Google was slowly dying, the company actually was growing. Okay. So what we learn from this situation is that sometimes on the stock market, the narrative is completely wrong. And the narrative, most of the time, is completely different from the numbers we see on the company. Okay. What happened to Google is history, because at a certain time, Google, of course, as I told you, was still making a lot of money. With Gemini, thanks to Gemini, Google became a serious AI player all across the globe. And last but not least, in the last few weeks, thanks to the Gemini 3, which is running on Google-made microchips, Google can even treat NVIDIA's dominance in the AI hardware space. Okay. So what's happened is that the narrative completely switched. But what never changed is that the numbers, the results that you can find here in the raw page, where now you can also have the visual part, never changed. Okay. And even now, if we add again to this chart the revenue growth rate 5 and 10 years, look, if we analyze the TTM, which is very important because this column is the trailing 12 month. It means that this number is the sum of the latest 4 quarters. Okay. So this is the number we have to watch in order to understand how the company is performing, let's say, in real time. Okay. And this is something really interesting because, as you can see, the company is still growing. Okay. The growth rate of the revenue, and of course, we can also see the earnings, is growing even if the company did great. Look, if we add here the net income and we zoom out, look, this company, no matter what, no matter ChatGPT, no matter nothing, but based on the results, it's growing. Okay. So we had an opportunity back in 1 year, 1.5 years, 6 months, where we could find this company on a very interesting low here, and exactly in the same date where Vox.com were writing that Google was dying, we found the best opportunity ever in this company. Okay. So these kind of company, this kind of situation are the situation we have to find in the stock market in order to jump in the opportunities before everyone knows, before the narrative change. And how can we do it? With the Forecaster terminal is very simple because we can go to the ranking page. Here you can find all the best, the most important indexes all across the globe. If we jump in the S&P 500 because it's the most important index all across the globe, you just have to go here where you have all the components of the index, and you have just to click to best to worst. And in this case, the Forecaster terminal, we give you a list of company which are very interesting based on fundamental analysis. And so you can find the list. Look, first row, Lululemon. Second row, the Clorox Company, Mohawk Industry, PayPal, Adobe. Adobe, for example, is exactly in the same situation Google was few months ago. Okay? Because Adobe is performing really bad in the recent 2 years. Look, it's now at $322, and the all-time high were here at 671, and we had a drop. And when we came back to 624, and now we are on the lows. Let's try to understand why. And if we ask Forecaster terminal here in the AI agent, we ask what's happening. The concern, look, are years. Adobe, there are concerns regarding Adobe ability to effectively leverage its investment in artificial intelligence. Okay? This is the problem. If we ask to Forecaster AI agent what, for example, the bears say, they say rich valuation versus slowing growth, rising competitive and technological pressure, macro and enterprise demand risk. The narrative in this moment on Adobe is very simple. Adobe will die because of artificial intelligence. Adobe will die because if we can create an image thanks to Google Gemini only by writing a prompt, we are not going to use Adobe anymore. We are not going to use Premiere Pro in order to create and edit in video. We are not going to use all the software that Adobe created 20 years ago because now we have the AI. So in this case, we find a company which is very low, and thanks to the Forecaster terminal ranking page, we can find Adobe at the 5th place. Okay, 5th place. Okay. But let's go to analyze it. Let's go to fundamental page. Let's go to the raw page and just click here. If you like this video, remember it's an extract of my weekly webinar. In this webinar, which is completely free, I share with you my strategies and my best trading and investment ideas for the week. Register even if you cannot attend it live, so we can send you the recorded version. You can find the link in the description. Let's go back to the video. As you can see, revenue are growing, no matter what. This is numbers, guys. And if we zoom out and we plot the 5-year revenue growth and the 10-year revenue growth, we can find something really interesting. Look, after the period between 2023 and 2024, where the company grew, but the growing rate was slowing down a little bit, now the TTM is very clear because the company is growing based on revenue, and also the revenue growth is growing both on 5 and 10 years. That's it. If we see the chart that we can plot on this chart, here you can definitely say that we have an opportunity, because we have a company which is growing and which is accelerating also, that thanks to the narrative we have nowadays is going down in the stock market. And if we go also here in the net income line, look, we have a better result in the TTM. Remember, TTM, it means trailing 12 months. And here we have the sum of the last 4 quarters. It's a way to understand how the company is performing, let's say, real time, okay? If we add the growth rate also here, the 5-year growth rate and the 10-year growth rate, here we are. As you can see, not only the net income is higher, but also the growth rate is getting better. And this is a very nice sign that probably we are in front of a very interesting opportunity. Roy is writing in the chat, so it's like a divergence, really. Exactly. And this is exactly what happened to Google a few months ago. Because Google, because of the narrative regarding ChatGPT, was performing really bad on the stock market. And then, but during this time of bad performance for Google, and the narrative went on with all this story about ChatGPT and the death of Google, the number was clearly, they were shouting, the company is getting better, the company is not dying, okay? And this is what we have to do. Let's go, for example, on one of my favorite company for a long-term investment, which is Novo Nordisk. Look at the chart. This company, I tell you, there are so many people out there that are telling that Novo Nordisk will die because the company went from more than 1,000 Danish krone per shares. They are now at 300. Okay. Why? For many reasons. I made many videos regarding Novo Nordisk, and you can find many videos in our YouTube channel. You can reach it if you want. We talked about Novo Nordisk many times, but the reality is completely different, because if we go here to the raw part, okay, and if we go here to the revenues, look at the TTM, trailing 12 months. Look, revenue are growing. And if we add the 5-year growth rate and the 10-year growth rate, they are skyrocketing. This company is not only gaining more money, but it's gaining more money with the more speed. It's growing like the hell. And if we add the stock price, as you can see, we have what Roy called the divergence, because the company is growing and the prices of the stock are falling down. And the same we can see, for example, here. Let's go directly on the 5-year. Let's go with the growth. And both 5-year net income growth rate and 10-year growth rate is skyrocketing, is going higher. Look. And also here, if we add the price of the stock, we can see definitely divergence. Okay. I'm showing you this because if we go, for example, here, we can definitely see in the overview where we can plot the net income line on the chart. As you can see, the green one is the net income. If we go back in 10 years, as you can see, in the long run, prices just follow the results of the company. Okay. And what we saw on the chart is exactly what we can see here. Okay. So for example, talking about Adobe, let's go back to Adobe. We saw this situation. We saw that both on revenue and net income, the growing is getting better. Okay. And so it's interesting. What we have to do is very simple. We have to go to the visual part where we have the calculation of the fair value for the company. And that's it. As you can see here, we can find that Adobe is also undervalued thanks to to fundamental analysis. We can delete the enterprise value on sales because it's a method it's better to use with companies that are losing money. We can also deactivate the discounted cash flow model because give us a result which is very different from those one that stay close to 540. And even if we are more conservative, we can find a company which is 66% undervalued. I don't know what will be the future of Adobe, but in my 20 and more years of experience in the stock market, I can tell you that probably the narrative on Adobe will change and the company will start to grow again in the stock market. It's always like that. It happened with Google. It happened many, many times. It happened in 2022 with Nvidia too. Really. In 2022, we had the same situation in Nvidia. Look here. We had exactly the same situation. Okay. And this is something very interesting. And thanks to the forecaster terminal and thanks to the ranking page, you can find the best stocks for all the best indexes in the world. Of course, for example, the fact that the company is here in the upper part of the list, it doesn't mean you have to buy with blind eyes. Okay. For example, Mohawk Industries, let's go to have a look. And we go to the fundamentals, we go to the raw page. As you can see, this company is not growing anymore. I don't know nothing about this company. Of course, I can ask to Forecaster AI agent, for example, to explain the business of the company in a simple way. And here we are. Mohawk Industries is a big company that makes all kind of flooring materials like carpets, tiles, and hardwood floors. Okay, so not very sexy industry, but anyway, you can know the company very well. And look here, as you can see, we are experiencing a downward movement in sales. And if we add both the revenue growth 10 and 5 years, as you can see, the company is not performing well. So even if the company is undervalued, it's not probably the moment to invest in because the company is not performing well. And as we know, because we can see the charts and we can see the past, as you can see, stocks grow because the results are good, both on sales and net income. And as you can see here, this is Nvidia. We had huge opportunities, and of course, if you know me since a few months, we jumped in this opportunity and we went long. We bought Nvidia a lot here. Okay. And this is something interesting that thanks to this new feature of the forecaster terminal, you can see very well. You can see the TTM. You can see how the company is growing. Look, for example, Nvidia. Why Nvidia is growing? Easy, guys. Look, not only the company is doing great in terms of revenue, but the company is also doing great in terms of growth. It's growing like the hell. Jonas is telling me if you plot 1 year income grow, it follow the stock price on Novo. Yeah, exactly. This is something interesting. Of course, I prefer to see the 5-year grow rate and the 10-year grow rate because I'm a more long-term investor. Okay, and yes, but of course, if you plot the 1 year, as you can see, it's very, very similar, okay? Because the stock market is looking at the growth, okay? Stock market is based on prospect, future prospect, okay? And this is an amazing situation because in the long run, as you can see, results, for example, on Novo are getting better, okay? Dalibor, very cool feature. I never recognized it. Uh, we have it since yesterday. It's something new. We just added. We just added. We are going to have a very nice new feature. I will show you in the webinar of December 23. We are working on it and you will love it. It will be my Christmas gift for you. And I can't wait to share it with you. This is just an appetize, an appetize for you. Whoa, Philip, the day after my birthday, so it's double present for me. Of course, of course. And Timothy, great new feature. Thank you. As you know, we are working hard in order to give you all the time improvements, and I think you appreciated it. Okay. Same situation with PayPal, for example. Look at PayPal. The narrative is very bad on the company. But if we go here, looking at revenues, it's growing no matter what. And probably we are close to an inversion because look, after few years of declining, not revenue declining, but growth rate declining, here we are back on track. And so probably something is happening. Okay. Also in this case, if we go here to the visual part where we have the fair value calculation, we of course switch off the enterprise value on sales because it's a method we have to use with companies that are losing money. We can also switch off the discounted cash flow because it's giving us a result which is higher compared to Peter Lynch and the economic value added. So we would like to be more conservative. Here we are. We are in front of a company which is definitely undervalued. Okay. But what really matters, guys, is this. Now, thanks to this new feature, we can definitely find what Timothy called the divergence. Look, here we have a company which is starting again to grow, okay, on very important laws. Let me tell you guys, if you have 1 minute, please go to Google, write Forecaster.biz, and if you have 1 minute, please click here on reviews and leave us a review, because it's very important for us. Reviews are very important, especially today with artificial intelligence, for let the software known all across the globe.